2014 Volkswagen Tiguan front strut assemblies. Let's get into it. All right, so we got our wheel off. First thing we have to do is remove this sway bar link nut, and I think it's an 18. Pretty sure it's an 18. I also got the hood open as well. So this style of strut, if you've seen in the beginning of the video, we've got nut certs that get pressed into the strut upper mount, and then there's bolts that actually go through the body into them. Now these things have a tendency to spin. The thread, come look at this. So what happens is the thread that's exposed on the other end gets really rusty, and when you try to take it out, it jams up in the nutsert, and then the nutsert spins in the body. So this will look like it's coming out, but it'll just sit there and spin and spin and spin and spin, and it won't come out. So we're going to see if we can get it out, and if it does spin, we can try to stick a socket on the end of that from underneath and see if we can get it to stop spinning that way. Maybe all of them won't spin, but I just did a Tiguan like 3 weeks ago, and we had like 4 out of 6 of them spun, and it was not fun. Okay, so to start, we're gonna clean the inside of this hole here. That's a 5mm hex key, by the way. And then I'm also, once we get that cleaned out and then your Allen key or hex key fits in there nicely, we're going to clean the threads on the outside here so that we have the best chance to get this nut off without the threads jamming up and the ball spinning. That's part of the sway bar link. That's just the natural design of the sway bar link. We got the ball in a socket design, so when this nut jams up, it's just gonna spin the ball inside of the socket on the other side, and the nut will never come off. So I got a wire wheel on a drill. We're just gonna hit it. All right, we're just gonna keep working our way around until we get nice and clean looking like that. We want nice and clean threads, and then we're gonna spray some lube on that as well. All right, now up to you if you want to. I have the luxury of using a ratcheting wrench. That's what I'm used to doing, is ratchet wrench, and then I use this to hold the stud so it keeps the stud from spinning. I'm going to just try to hit it with the impact gun first, in the off chance that the nut just comes right off, because sometimes that happens. So we're gonna find out here. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. So I sort of knew that. That's why I got this. So now we gotta put this on here. And then see, if I don't hold the stud, it's just gonna spin the stud. Very important to clean the threads, because if you don't, what happens is the inside will strip out, which it just spun, which is nice. So may end up having to put a little bit of heat in there to hopefully get that to release a little bit, but not too much heat, because we don't want to melt the nylon that's inside of the cup on the other side. Otherwise we damage the sway bar length and you got to replace it. Well, hoops. Somebody had those knobs on there real tight. All right, I want to put some fire to this thing. Okay. A little bit of heat goes a long way. It's gonna be hot. Okay, we'll just carefully set that to the side. Now, we're going to want to do this stuff down here. I'm gonna leave the 3 top ones for last. So I'll just set that down to the side. And let's see, I'm gonna go find out what size triple square we need for this bolt here. And then we've got a nut on the back side. Now, a lot of times, so there's a split on the back of this knuckle that needs to spread open a little bit in order to relieve the clamping tension onto the lower portion of the strut. And rust will build up in between that slit and also in the holes where the bolt goes through. So the bolt will get seized in the knuckle where it goes through. And this happened to me on the Tiguan I did 3 weeks ago, where we had a 1/2-inch breaker bar on this bolt and it would not move. And the only way we could get it out was put heat on it because it was absolutely seized in there with rust. So hopefully yours aren't rusty, but I'm gonna go get you some bolt sizes. I believe the nut on the bottom is 18 millimeters, and which it is. And I'll let you know in a second what the triple square size is. Okay, so I think what we're gonna do now is just give ourselves some slack because we need to push this whole assembly down. So quite simple. We just take, this is our, it's 2 circuits. We've got our wheel speed sensor and our brake pad wear sensor. And they just slip into a little groove on the bracket. So we just have to wiggle it out. No big deal. The brake line, on the other hand, is a little bit different. So you'll see there is a U-shaped spring clip in here, and it literally just gets jammed in place. So I'm going to try to use some vice grips in there to wiggle it out. Kind of sucks that the backing plate's a little bit in the way. Not a big deal. What I'm going to do first, I think, is just grab a hammer and a punch and see if I can just shock it loose, because right now it's just rusted together. And we can't heat it because this is a rubber brake line and it's crimped. There's a fitting that's crimped together and will melt the brake line, so heat is not in the is not an option. So 1 second. All right, we just spray a little bit of lube on there. That's gonna help us. And then I just wanna there you go. We're seeing it move a little bit this way. It's got to go up. I just wanted to break the bond free so that this thing can move. And I really wish I could get in there. Maybe I'll try this way. There's not much to grab on to. All right, so a combination of vice grips and a punch. Got that off. Now, this piece will slide back and then up. And that's going to give us some room here. Now I think we can probably get away with just doing that. There's another one over here, but it turns into a hard line. So I'm just going to leave this. I don't want to risk bending that line. We should have enough. If we really had to, we could take the caliper and hang it up to the strut until we could get this off and then move it somewhere else or whatever. But we're just going to try this. We do have to, I guess the next step is remove this nut on this side. And now this nut, I can already tell it's got a a nylon sleeve that's built into the nut. It's crimped in there, and it acts as like a thread locker so that it doesn't back itself off. So that nut's a one-time use only part, like 90% of things on this car. All right, that came off no problem. Now we're gonna deal with the difficult part of this bolt. And I can just tell based on how much rust is in around the bolt and the hole that it's in, that thing's gonna be right seized in there. So I'm just gonna not waste any time, skip right to heating it up. Now we have to watch because of these brake lines and the ABS and brake pad wear sensor wires when dealing with heat. We also need to watch out for our axle boots. Those are made out of rubber. So just put some heat in this. We're not supposed to heat the strut. It's filled with compressed gas. So really you're not supposed to use heat on any steering or suspension component, but in this case, we really don't have a choice because we're going to break the bolt if we don't. Or we'll strip it out and then we'll have to drill it out. Oh yeah. Okay, so we got it spinning. That's the first step. I'm just gonna spin it around a bunch with the impact gun to get the rust, dislodge all the rust out of there and stuff. If you're using heat, just watch, because things get really hot, right? Don't burn yourself. Wear gloves if you're worried about that. Always wear eye protection. Okay, now I should be able to just give that a little knock with the hammer and send it out. Okay, you can see all the rust that's on the threads and how severe the rust got, which is horrific. And I'll see if I can just get this thing out. So pretty rusty. I'm gonna clean that up, and I'm probably just gonna reuse it because I don't really care. But I'm gonna check the service manual. If it says replace it, I highly recommend that you replace it. Any of the replaceable stuff, one-time use stuff, definitely probably get that stuff before you do the job. So now that we got this off, our next step is to use, we want to use a punch, something that's tapered that we can stick in there to wedge the knuckle and sort of spread it apart. Now this knuckle is made out of cast. It's cast steel. So there's a chance that it could fracture and break if you stress it too much. I'm sure there's a special service tool that will stretch it a certain amount so that it takes the clamping load off of the strut so that you can take it out. But this does just fine. You can stick it in the slot in the back, tap it with a hammer to spread the knuckle just enough so that it releases and we can get this thing down. So I'm just gonna grab a hammer and get underneath here. Now there is, the other catch is, there's an alignment tab that's part of the shock that slides down into this slot in the knuckle and it gets in your way. So we can get by that, but it's sort of a pain. I may have to change the punch. This one's a little bit too big. Slice it. Okay, I'm gonna cheat and use an air hammer with a chisel bit, but I think I'm going to go straight up. The last time I did this, I tried to just go in, but the problem is when you go to take the knuckle off, the slot that's part of the strut rides up the slit and it'll run into your punch. So I think there's just enough room I can maybe sneak in like this. And I'll see if I can just leave that in there like that to relieve that tension. And we should be able to just give this a couple taps. Okay, we're just going to try this air hammer here and see if we can take this off. There. A little bit more. All right, you can see now that the knuckle is near the bottom, but what's happening is the knuckle is trying to go like this, so it's not going straight off. So I'm gonna try to get in behind it with this flat bit. Just gonna have to keep on hammering. Okay, we got that off now. Now, I guess you kind of got to watch because like the knuckle's going to want to fall out this way. So just maybe have somebody hold this or prop something up against it so that it doesn't fall out too far. Now we're ready to take this off. Another thing you're going to want to do while you have access to the inside of this hole is clean all the rust out of it if it's got rust, because if it's full of rust and you try to stick it back on the new strut, it's gonna put up quite a fight trying to go back on. The tolerances are gonna be too tight, stuff like that. So just make sure you get that all cleaned up. Also around the edge, if you've been hammering anywhere around here, make sure it's not all like mushroomed in or dented in at all. We need like a nice clean cylinder to slide onto the new shock body. So I guess we're pretty much ready to lower this down and remove the 3 bolts. All right, so we got the bolt out, so we're gonna clean that. And then also we take these clips off, and you can pull this weather strip off. Literally just sits in there. And then this piece pops up. Now, if you wanted to, you could pop these caps off. I might actually just do it for the video to show you guys. But if you're being lazy, you can literally just like lift this up a bit, jam a block of wood underneath of there, and then stick a ratchet in there and do it that way. But I'm gonna show you how to take the whole cowl out, so just in case you wanna do it. But first thing, you're gonna wanna take the weather strip off. You can take it completely off. And then we got all these little clips, and they just literally pull off, that's it. There's 3 of them. And I'm not 100% sure what this piece is for. Some wiring, whatever. There's a wiring harness that runs down in. Obviously, Oh, I guess it's for your washers probably, washer hose. You can use a little flathead screwdriver to take these caps off, and then I'll show you what size you're gonna need to take the nut off. All right, so you just go in this little slot right here, pop that off. We got 13 millimeter nuts, we're gonna take those off, and you may need a wiper puller that will pull that arm off. They're a spline tapered shaft that get press fit on there with the nut. So I'm gonna see if I can get them off without the puller. Probably gonna need the puller. Now, if this was a Toyota, you would be able to just press down and pull up a little bit on these arms, and it would come free off of there. But because it's a Volkswagen, I'm just kidding, it could be a Dodge too. We're gonna have to use the wiper puller, which looks like this. And all we're gonna do is just loosen this off, and then we slide this around the arm. That goes on here like so. And then we tighten that down. And I'll show you what it's gonna look like here in a second. So that's what you should be left with, something like that. And then we can just go ahead and tighten this. And it should pull it off. This cowl, the plastic trim, is sort of in the way, which really sucks. Okay, so here's my problem. I was able to get the wiper puller in on the driver's side, and I put tension on it, everything was good. I was able to jostle the arm enough for it to break free to get the wiper arm off. Now the center one, or passenger side wiper blade, different story. The cowl is too close to the wiper arm to install the wiper arm puller. The only way I'm able to do that is if I cycle the wiper arm and stop it in a vertical position. Then I can fit the tool on. However, we found out that the wipers will not work with the hood open. You have to have the hood closed. And the situation I'm in right now is I can't stop the wiper blade. Even if I turn the key off, the wiper blade will still return to the park position. So I need to figure that out. I was gonna try to just pull the fuse while it was in the up position, but you have to have the hood open to do that. So maybe I can try this and pop the hood just like that. All right, now we can continue and thread this on here. Now I had to put quite a bit of tension on these because they're really seized on there from rust. So hopefully yours aren't. Most of them, if you live in a rusty climate, you're gonna have issues. Without this puller, there's no way you're getting them off. Like I say, you can kind of get around it by wedging like a block of wood or something underneath of the plastic cowl to get it up enough to get a ratchet in there, but you do run the risk of breaking the cowl. This plastic does dry out over the years. So I'm gonna stick some vice grips on there and give it a couple extra cranks, and then we'll try. The issue is like a lot of, okay. Yeah, lots of pressure. So we can take this off now. Now, we don't really have to mark the position of where the wipers go back on, because for installation, we don't need this tool. So when we go to install the wipers, we need to cycle the wipers so that the motor goes to its park position. Then we can install the wiper arms. Otherwise, if you forget to do that, you install your wiper blades in the park position, you're going to cycle them and they're going to go down. You don't want that because you're probably going to damage a bunch of stuff. So pay attention to what you're doing and listen to this. All right, so I did set the wiper arms. They are different from left to right. So I set the one on the passenger side over there, one on the driver's side over there. We're going to close the hood now. And we're going to cycle the wipers now so that they're ready to be installed and that we don't forget to do that. Okay. Now we can continue with taking the cowl off. All right, now, these cowl pieces, like I said, plastic gets very brittle. You can see there's already a piece broken out of this one. Somebody's maybe already been in here trying to take this off or do whatever. There, you can see there's a strip that runs along the bottom of the glass. And there's a slot in it. And the plastic has a piece that snaps into that slot. So we need to go ahead and work our way along, lifting this off, hopefully without breaking it. So a lot of patience and be very delicate with it. And it should just pop off. Now also, while you're doing this, do not lean on the bottom of the glass. There is a chance that if you lean on this glass, the windshield may fracture. Okay, now, trick question, how does this come out? Is taped under there? Oops. Piece is sitting in here like so. All you're gonna do, there's a hooky tab thing right there. You just squeeze them together. And then this pops up, and there's also another hook on the back side right there. So this piece, you just sort of pop it off and get it out of the way, and then we can kind of move this over, and then we are able to remove this piece. So there's one side, and we'll do the other side. I see there is sort of a cutout right here, and I'm not sure if there's anything in behind it, but we're gonna find out. So I figure these holes, these caps don't actually come off, just part of the plastic cast. And I believe they're there for right-hand drive models where the wipers are on this side instead of this side. Okay, so I'm just gonna spray this one nut with a little bit of penetrating fluid. That's the nut that holds this bolt closest to us. That's the easiest one to get to. So we're gonna just try to take it off and see what happens. When these things spin, it turns your job into like an additional 2 hours of work, which really sucks. So I spray some more penetrating oil. I'm just gonna put it back in. It didn't spin, but I'm just gonna work it in and out. Try to get as much of the threads off, or rust off of the threads, sorry. All right, so there's one. Also that hole right there is where all the water drains out, and you get a lot of leaves and stuff that go down there, and then it builds up inside your fender and it rots your fenders out. So just an FYI. Need a new can. Let's go for 3. True. Okay, just put one bolt like kind of back in, just so that when we take this bolt out, the strut doesn't just like fall out, right? So I just put one back in. We're just gonna keep working this one. Okay, we're ready to take this out now. I just got to loosen this ratchet strap off a little bit. I may have to go up. All right, we've successfully removed the shock. Now we're ready to install our new one. Now it looks like the new shocks are symmetrical. As far as I can tell, they're pretty much the same. The brackets are the same. The sway bar links will just be kind of, they'll look different from side to side. One will be on one side, the other one will be on the other. So I can just pick whichever one you choose, whatever you like. For the driver's side, I'm going to choose this one. You can leave the sticker on if you want or take it off. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to just take it off. And we take these bolts out. Now these nuts should be the same thread. It varies between manufacturers that make aftermarket struts. So if you do decide to reuse the OEM bolts, just double check that the threads are correct before you go to send it down with a gun. Okay, so there's some arrows on here. Now I don't exactly know if the space between these two is the same as these ones. The triangulation may be slightly different. So we do need to make sure this tab and this sway bar link are facing towards the back. But first we need to get this bolted on, and then don't worry if those don't line up, because this whole assembly spins, it rotates. So we'll get it bolted up and then we can spin it to clock it right to go back into the knuckle afterwards. Before we install this though, now is the time to clean the inside of this out. We're gonna polish it up real nice so that this goes in without a hitch. All right, I just have some white lithium grease, and I'm just gonna put some of that in here. I've sanded out most of the rust, and I just want to put a little bit in here to ease installation and also prevent rust from returning. So okay, so we're ready to install our strut now, and I think I just mentioned about these arrows. They need to be facing forwards and backwards. So very important that it goes in like this. And just have one of your bolts ready. We're gonna feed this thing up into the hole. And have to start. We gotta start our bolt. And once we get one started, we can go ahead and install the other ones.
These are 15 plus 90.
Okay, we torque these down to 15 foot-pounds or newton meters. Everything's newton meters, baby. 15 newton meters plus 90-degree rotation. All right, we'll get this thing set here. Okay, we'll go around to the other ones. All right, now we need to do the 90 degrees of rotation. There's one. Okay, so here's the difficult part, in my opinion, is getting this back on. Now, in the service manual, it says to remove the steering knuckle. But I'm gonna try not to do that. The other one I did, I ended up having to unbolt the ball joint. Reason being is this axle shaft, what happens is when we drop it down, it extends, and that shaft can come apart from each other even though the boot is still holding it together. And when you go to try to put it in, the axle shaft tries to go back into itself, except it doesn't quite mesh and it gets jammed against each other. So it stops and you can't get this in the right spot to get it up. So we're gonna try to put it on and well, hopefully it goes on. And it's a real pain. It's difficult to do by yourself, kind of, if you're not big and strong. Right, we don't have a set screw in here, so we can't turn the friggin' thing. I'm gonna just try to jack this up a bit. I may need to turn this. I can't get it. Is that enough? Okay, so now we're taking the ball joint off because of this lovely design. You wouldn't want to just make a strut with two bolt holes that goes in together. You can tell I'm getting a little irritated. So I knew I was going to run into this problem because I ran into this problem with the last Tiguan I did, but you can't just stuff it back in there and slide it up the way that you take it apart. You have to take the ball joint off in order to get the knuckle to sit properly to slide up onto the strut. Then you can bolt it in, then you can put the knuckle back over and install the ball joint. Bunch of extra work, but it's really not. It's only 3 nuts. Now I'm going to spray these down. They're super rusty. I don't want to break them. Okay, so it's starting to go. I may use the transmission jack just to hold pressure on this while I get in behind to spread the knuckle open a little bit to allow it to slide up. I think that's what I'm gonna do, because it's a little tricky with one person. This guy. Okay, I'm going to switch over to my other bit now. Yeah, you just want to take it as easy as we can because we don't want to damage the knuckle, right? So. Now, when you're at about this point, we can check through the hole. And if you look in there, you'll see that alignment shaft, or that alignment plate that's on the back of the strut that goes through the slit is not down far enough to get our bolt through yet. So we will just continue to go until we can. Okay, so now if you look in the hole, you can see we can go all the way through. So we're down far enough. By the way, the knuckle is machined so that you cannot go too far down. It will bottom out. So sort of foolproof in that way. We can take our bolt and send it home. And we'll get our nut started on there, which
Brand new.
is a brand new nut, by the way. Brand is new. And now that that's in, our knuckle cannot fall off now, so we can lower the jack. Or for those of you that are doing this in your driveway, I'm sorry, I wish you luck. Okay, now we gotta put our ball joint back in, so it's really not a big deal. We need to, I'm gonna go to the other side and turn the knuckle. We want it straight. All right, let's pull this arm down. Try to line up our ball joint so that the stud goes into the holes. And now we can put our nuts back on there.
Brand new.
Brand new nuts. Man, the amount of money you're gonna spend in hardware compared to just the part that broke. Like, you think you need a strut, but no, you need $400 in hardware too. All right, we're gonna buzz these ball joint nuts down. So once we get them tightened down, we'll torque them to 100 Newton meters.
What if you have an aluminum control arm?
Oh, if you have an aluminum control arm, then you're only gonna torque them to 60 Newton meters. Steel 100, aluminum 60. Okay, we'll just snug that down, and then we're gonna torque it to, all right, we're gonna torque that one to 70 Newton meters plus 90-degree rotation. Almost said foot down. Okay. All right, so we need to torque the sway bar length nut down to 65 Newton meters, and make sure you use a new nut. Yeah, like it's just gonna spin it, so. Okay, so we're gonna install our brake hose now. And you just see me use the wire wheel to clean out that groove because we want this to seat nicely. So you just get that lined up in the little grooves, and just like that. Nice and easy, nothing to it. And we can, sorry, I'll get out of your way. We just pop these things in. Make sure that your hoses aren't twisted or anything like that, and that everything's routed correctly. Nothing's loose, we're looking good. Ball joints are torqued, struts torqued. The sway bar link is torqued. We didn't take any of the brakes apart, so that's good. These 3 bolts up top are torqued, so that pretty much covers it for the R&R of the strut. Now the other side is exactly the same, so I'm not going to show you the other side, but you get the idea. Last thing would be to put the wiper cowl and wiper blades back on, and I'll give you a torque spec for the wiper arms. Okay, so for your wiper arms, it says right in the manual, mount the wiper arm shaft in the M position and tighten the mounting nuts hand tight. So no torque spec, just tighten them hand tight. I'd probably go like pretty snug, but you don't want to like completely crank them down and break them. So, but like I say, the main thing was to make sure that the wiper shafts are in their park position, and then you can go ahead and install the wipers. Just make sure they are in their normal position. Before taking them off, I guess you could use a piece of painter's tape or something like that to sort of show where exactly they sit. But I guess I could throw them on there just to give you an idea. All right, because I'm doing the other side yet, and we're not going to video that because they're the same from side to side, I'm not putting the cowl on because I need it off to the other side. Anyhow, I'm going to show you how where these go on. You can see the dusty marks on the window. Now, some windows actually have little marks in them of where they're supposed to go. but I don't see any on this one. Maybe I'm not looking close enough, but you want to be like about there, so you know, level, and then you can see the dusty marks on the other side as well, roughly where they're going to go. And yeah, once you get the cowl on, then you put the wiper arms on, tighten everything down snug, and then I would just close the hood, turn the car on, cycle the wipers, make sure that they sweep the windshield nicely, that they're not interfering with anything else, and that they return to park in the proper position. But once again, for a fourth time, make sure that when you take these off, you cycle the wiper motor so that it returns to the park position. Because if you don't and you tighten this down and it's not in the park position, it's going to begin the sweep, but it's already midway through the sweep, and then it's going to go down and it's going to just completely fold the wiper arm, and you're going to have a really bad day. So don't do that. I guess that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, throw them in the comment section below. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, really helps us. And subscribe for more content. If you want to watch more videos, go check them out on the channel. We got tons of videos, wheel bearings, brakes, all on this car. I think that's it. We'll catch you in the next one.